Good morning, BST. My name is Elijah Abdul Sayed, and welcome to this episode of BST Talks.
Hello, Cowboys. I'm the co-host of this podcast, Brady Volkman, and welcome to the second episode for the year of BST Talks, How to Succeed in Your Sophomore Classes.
Today, we will be interviewing BST juniors and asking them to give some tips on how to succeed in their classes from last year for the new sophomores, both the cybersecurity and biomedical pathways.
The first class will be discussing is Cybersecurity Honors, where we will interview Shane Mack, a junior taking the cybersecurity pathway.
The best way to study for cybersecurity honors is to pay attention in class, review the reading materials and notes, and to, most importantly, follow the study guide. A mindset that I would recommend for cybersecurity honors class is to always be ready to learn and to have fun in the process.
The next class we will discuss is AP Computer Science Applications, where we will be interviewing Luke Kiefel, a junior at BST.
Some tips I'd give on how to succeed in your AP Computer Science Applications classroom are, well, to stay focused, stay positive, and to just do your best. In AP Computer Science Applications, you learn a lot of different content, a lot of different codes, procedures. And so I think that it's really important to just make sure that you are fully understanding, ask questions if you're confused, practice everything as much as you can. I feel like in this kind of class, with all the content that you cover, it's really important that you stay focused when things are being taught, and you make sure that you 100% master or comprehend, understand what those concepts are, because they really build on each other. And so if you continue to build this understanding throughout the year, then by the end of it, when you're preparing for the exam, it'll be much easier because you've gone through it the whole year with the mindset of, I will learn this and I will get this down throughout the year. The best way that I'd recommend studying for AP CSA or computer science applications is practice, practice, practice. I cannot tell you enough how important it is to practice for this class, because a lot of it is coding concepts, yes, that you learn throughout the year, but there are times where, there's going to be different ways to implement the same type of program. There's different for loops, conditionals, while loops, methods, public and private variables. And so you can't prepare for everything, but by practicing with AP questions, FRQs, and with those kinds of activities and assignments as much as you can, you really get yourself ready for those kinds of questions when you're taking tests. And for the vocabulary tests, I would also recommend studying the slides, studying your notes if you have any, and watching review videos to go over some of those concepts so that you're ready for when the test comes to describe those concepts, and you're ready to answer all the questions fully.
Now, we will talk about how to succeed in Integrated Math 3 Honors, where we will interview Carlos Sierra and Victoria Lecaro, who are taking the biomedical pathway.
Some tips I would give to succeed in IM3 honors is to be ready to learn and to stay focused in class, and to finally do lots of practice problems so you can be comfortable with the topic and know what you're doing. The most important topics in IM3 honors for the first semester would be algebra, because we use it mainly for almost all the first semester. And then for the second semester, it would be trigonometry, because most of the topics that we learn in the second semester is mostly based on trigonometry.
I think the best way to study for Integrated Math 3 Honors is to watch all of the review videos. She usually posts videos along with each lesson. It can help you get better in whatever skill you're learning in the unit. There's a lot of helpful YouTube channels out there that can give you a lot of examples and other ways to do whatever skill you're learning. One that I find extremely helpful is called the Organic Chemistry Tutor, which is a YouTube channel where he goes over each of the skills and gives you examples and other methods in addition to, whatever way Dr. Collins is teaching you, that could be very helpful. And I find that it's very helpful when I go through my notes and see all the things we've learned in that unit and kind of write them all down so I know what I have to be able to do for the test. and can review and strengthen whatever I'm not comfortable in. The mindset I would say you would need to have in integrated math 3 honors is that you're not going to be perfect at everything. I think a lot of people stress out too much, like trying to make sure that the notes they're copying on the teachings are like perfect and that they're super neat, that each concept is like learned perfectly at first, which isn't really that realistic because it's a lot of information and new concepts and skills you're going to be learning in integrated math 3. So I think it's important just to focus on the teachings and not worry so much about like whether your notes are nice or whether or not you're like perfect at each skill right away. Something that I would recommend doing, which I have been doing and I find is extremely helpful, is that I have two separate notebooks. One notebook is like the one I'm taking notes with in class, and the writing there is super messy and it's not really that organized, but it's just important because in class I'm not worried about how it looks. I'm just worried about whether or not I can get down the concept and like write notes that I understand and that will help me. And then later on, usually I do this when I'm reviewing for the test. I get the other notebook and I copy down my messy notes but in a much neater, organized format, which helps me because then I'm able to kind of review concepts that I may have forgotten but that I wrote down in class, and I can put them in a way that's much easier for me to refer back to at any given point throughout the year where I need to look back at old concepts. And it's a good way for me to have all that there so I won't forget it.
Next, we will be talking about AI in medicine, where we will interview Sophia Henderson, a junior at BST.
Some tips that I have for those who are going to be taking AI in Med next are don't be afraid to ask questions. I feel like questions are so beneficial. Don't be afraid to get into the specifics. If you're confused about anything, please ask. Miss Viste will always be there to clarify anything. She's a very patient and amazing teacher, and she's always willing to help you out and make sure that you're in a place where you're able to succeed and do the best that you can. Another tip I have is be ready to be engaged, because that class is such a whirlwind. You kind of it's always something new, and so you're always going to be invested. You're always going to be ready to move on to the next thing. So you're just constantly going to be captivated by whatever's going on, and so just be ready to live in that. Be ready to be focused and be in the best mindset that you can, and be engaged with that class, because it's just so much fun, and you learn so much that you have to be engaged. You have to be ready to be a part of that class. And the most fun that I've ever had is when we did the Shark Tank presentations. It was really cool to pretend that you were on a TV show, and get real feedback and come up with something that could change the world. I thought that was fun, and just watching everybody and seeing what they came up with, it just shows how unique and diverse that the BST culture truly is. And so I would definitely say that Shark Tank activity was one of the best times that I've had.
Now we will discuss AP Seminar and interview Annabelle McManama and Matthew Tung.
Topics you need to know before taking AP Seminar are honestly none, because the class is so research-based on new topics that you decide in class that you don't really need to know anything ahead. The only thing that you don't choose to research is the stimulus materials they give you for your IWA and IMP. However, you're not going to know what those are until they're given to you in the class, so you can't really study ahead on things. But just maybe start looking at current day news and issues that are very relevant to today, and not issues that were relevant 30 years ago. So that's the only thing I would say for topics you would want to know. But other than that, just come in ready to do some research. The easiest part of AB Seminar for me was collaborating with my group members for the TMP, the Team Multimedia presentation, as well as just overall presenting, because it comes more natural to me. But unlike presenting, essays don't come as natural to me. And so I just felt that the essays we had to write for the AP exam were a bit more complicated for me since my skill set is definitely not writing essays, but it all depends on you as a person and what you struggle with and what you excel in, which will determine what will be hard and what will be easy for you in the class.
Hello, this is Matt Tung, a sophomore here at BST, and I'm going to be answering a few questions about how to succeed in AP seminar. The first question is, what are some tips that you would give on how to succeed in AP seminar? Some tips I would give on how to succeed in AP seminar is to always stay on top of the deadlines. Now, I know that many of us high schoolers are procrastinators. I'm guilty of this too. I procrastinate sometimes. But especially in AP seminar and even in all your classes, you should always try to stay on the deadlines and not procrastinate. But especially in AP seminar, because the AP test for AP seminar is project based. Most of it is projects such as presentations and also essays. But for the individual written essays that you have to submit into College Board the end of April, it's important to not procrastinate on these because you might see the due date for these being months away and saying, I'll get to it later. I can do it later. But if you always fall into this mindset, you're going to be left like with a week away from the due date and not even have a finished essay to turn in. But to combat this, it's great to always work on it a few, to work on the written essays a little bit every day. And to also, another good way to combat procrastination is working it with friends, right? Because they can help you peer review your essays and also keep you accountable for, like, say, hey, dude, did you work on your essay for AP seminar today, right? It's a great way to keep yourself accountable for, to make sure that you succeed and get a 5 on the AP seminar AP test in May. Now, another question is, what was the most fun thing that you did in the AP seminar? Now, I think there's two really fun things that we did in AP seminar, so I'll say the two. One, the first thing that was a fun thing that we did in AP seminar was the TMP, or the team multimedia presentation. While I know presentations might not seem fun, like at I'm really bad at public speaking, but honestly, I think it's really fun, a really fun part of this class. And also, you get to do it with other people that you might be friends with that can help you comfort you and make sure that you enjoy the TMP. And I just thought it was really fun working with a group of classmates. And also, another fun thing that we did in AP seminar was an activity called Zoom. This was a book that had different like lengths of zoomed in of a single image, and it was had a ton of photos that in the entire class had to find the way and how they were all connected. Now, this was really fun. It brought camaraderie, a sense of camaraderie and teamwork into our class, and also helped us learn how to work with a team because it's such a big factor in AP seminar.
The next class we will talk about is AP European History, where we will interview Megan Ratio, a junior at BST.
So, some of the main tips that I would give to someone that was taking AP Euro would be to make sure that you're really grasping the concepts both inside and outside of class, like when you're taking notes for homework and when you're doing in class activities. And if not, that's completely fine as well, which will lead me into my next tip, which is just to be communicative with your teachers and make sure that you're reaching out or asking for help whenever it's necessary. And finally, just make sure that you're always reviewing the previous units, because the thing about history is that there's always going to be connection from one unit to the next, and especially because it's an AP class, you have an AP exam at the end of the year, so you want to make sure that you're studying for that as much as you possibly can. So when studying for AP Euro, one of the first things I do is I go to the CED, the course exam description that Mr. Rogers has posted in our Google Classroom, because that basically just gives an outline of everything exactly that we need to know for that unit according to College Board. And anything that I don't know right away, like right off the bat when I first see it, I just look it up or ask for help whenever I need to. But other than that, the main way I study is by looking up practice questions online
as well as looking up past FRQs and GBQs. And if I happen to ever need more help than that, I go to YouTube and just go to Heimer's history. He's pretty good at summarizing like each section of every unit, and he's pretty funny when he does it too. Walking into AP Euro, or just any AP class for that matter, I think it's really important to go in with two distinct mindsets, which also kind of go hand in hand at the same time. So I think having an open mindset is really good when you're going into AP Euro, because it allows you to really learn and just be open to all of the new information that you're receiving. And I think it's really important, honestly, for all of your classes, just to make sure that you're completely focused and just really paying attention to what the teacher is saying. And I think it's also really important, especially for AP Euro, to have a positive mindset, because again, it is a college class and you might be struggling with certain concepts and you might not grasp everything right away, but that's completely fine, and that's what you're there for class. That's why you're there for class, and that's why the teachers are there to help you learn.
Last but not least, we will talk about anatomy and physiology, where we will be interviewing Natalie Lieb and Lawrence Kim.
Some tips that I would give on how to succeed in anatomy and physiology is to stay on top of your work, especially that anatomy and physiology requires repetition. You have to make sure you're on top of your studying and your homework, because you don't want to fall behind, and you need to make sure you're prepared for practicals and tests, ultimately because there's so many different components in anatomy that you have to make sure you understand it all. I found the best way to study for anatomy and physiology is through flashcards or even diagrams. Flashcards were really good in helping build repetition, especially when there are so many components. There's numerous bones and muscles in the body, so flashcards were an easy way to have me memorize all this material, especially online flashcards that were easy to make. And then even coloring guides that gave me a visual representation of these components of the body, and that just helped me understand their purposes, their functions, and what they do to the body. Some specific topics in anatomy and physiology that are most important to know are the foundation of anatomy and physiology, and this entails cellular processes such as photosynthesis, cellular respiration, homeostasis, positive and negative feedback, and ultimately when you have these concepts understood, you're going to better understand the further concepts that are going to come in anatomy and physiology, whether that be what the bones do, muscles, even digestive system, reproductive system, urinary system, all these different systems, because they all incorporate those cellular processes that were covered in the beginning of the year.
I love the digestive system. The most fun thing that I did in anatomy and physiology was definitely the dissections, especially the sheep heart. We first learned about what the sheep heart was made out of and its components, and then after that we were able to actually dissect it ourselves, which is really cool to do. The easiest part of anatomy and physiology was definitely just learning about our bodies itself and how it affected us, because we could really see that in real life. But the hardest part was that there was a lot of words to it to memorize, especially scientific words that I wasn't really used to. But eventually I persevered through all of that because I really enjoyed the class in general, and I could kind of relate to it in a lot of areas. When you walk into anatomy and physiology class, I recommend a mindset that's open and a growth mindset. Mr. Rogers talks about this a lot, but it's really going to help you out in the sense that you'll be able to see your potential and really see what exactly you want to do with this class and learn a lot from just having an open mindset.
Thanks for listening, guys. Tune in next time for a new episode. Get to know your classes and teachers, part 1.
And remember, be your best at BST.